Hello, everybody. This is Jason Brownell, Director of Engineering here at Molding Graphic Systems. And I'm certainly going to be conscious of everybody's time, but I do want to share some of our rotational molding support products that we offer and how it's actually providing solutions for rotational molders and increasing profits. So I do have a small presentation I would like to go through. And then we'll open it up for questions and answers at the end of the broadcast. So again, lots of companies, and I've got case studies here that we're going to go through with some of our rotational molding support products where people are actually repairing parts or preventing problems in the first place. So just a little bit about our company. We are located in Central Arizona. I consider us more of a polymer company or a plastics company than, say, a printer. Now, we are certainly known for our labeling methods for rotational molding, where you can put it in the mold. And because the label itself is plastic, it melts with your rotomolding resin, goes into a cooling cycle, and then when the part comes out, it is labeled with a material that's going to be there for the life of the part. We're certainly known for our graphics that can go on the outside of a rotationally molded part as well. That's a mold-on graphic. Again, it's plastic. You're putting it in contact with your plastic part, and then you're using a shrink wrap torch to fuse those two materials together. And again, because it is common material, our label is plastic, your plastic resin, it is 100% recyclable at the end of the product's life. And as you're going to see as we go through these various support items, those are also recyclable as well at the end of life. And that is why we can offer a lifetime guarantee that our labeling methods are going to be part of your plastic for the life of the part. Okay, so we are located in Central Arizona and would welcome visitors anytime to our campus. It's absolutely beautiful here and enjoy having visitors. So please consider that as well. So today we're going to be going over 4 items and looking at some case studies of each one of them. We have patch and go for doing repairs. We have parting line sealer for sealing up the parting lines or the flanges on a mold so that resin isn't falling out. We have rotational molding compound, which allows you to create some solid features. And then we're going to talk about our color in and on systems. So the first problem solver that I wanted to talk about is patch and go. And people utilize this in all sorts of different forms, okay? So what it does is it repairs holes. Now, this is for like cosmetic type blemishes. This is not meant to be under a pressurized tank or anything like that. But say, for example, you have a part, maybe there was some damaged parting lines, and so now you've got some blowholes that you want to fill in. So rather than scrapping the part, you can actually repair that, okay? And so the material itself, consider it a raw material. Now, it's kind of a gel type format, and you can actually take that and add colorant to it, your rotational molding pigment. Now, you can't use just the resin, but if you use the pigment that is part of the resin, you can actually color the patch and go. It basically comes from us in a natural type material. So you would take and you would fill in those holes using either, like a little sort of putty knife. Sometimes people will use like a tongue depressor to fill in those holes. Once you have them properly filled in, you take a torch and you have to heat it up and over 275 degrees Fahrenheit. When you have done that, you've reached the melt temperature and the cure temperature of the patch and go material. You've also reached the melt temperature of the skin of your plastic part. And now that part can go out, and rather than scrapping it and losing profit or having to remake it, now you can, sell that part at full value. So, for example, we were working with, and this is like the first of one of the case studies. We had a large domestic rotomolder that we were working here in the U.S., and they calculated it up, and they were spending just a couple dollars, and that was all in for the patch and go material, for the labor to put it on, the propane to heat it up. It was costing them a couple dollars to repair a blemish, but that part was $100 part. And so that saved them last year alone about $100,000. Now, you also have to kind of dig a little bit deeper, because if you did scrap that part and you weren't able to repair it, not only do you have the machine time to have to make a new part to replace it, you also have the material for the scrap part. You also have the new material making the new product. And we haven't even talked about the labor aspect of remaking parts. So it's what they call hidden factory, and that really starts to add up as you get deeper into looking at scrap materials. So again, kind of a summary, if you will, of Patch and Go. Super easy to use. It can help you to eliminate scrap. It can increase your profit by having more sellable parts at the end of the day. So again, super easy to color, but again, I want to caution you, you can't use resin and try to color the Patch and Go. You need to actually use the pigment, okay? So next up is problem solver number 2, and this is going to be parting line sealer. So this is where, rather than repairing a part, you're actually preventing some of the issues that you can get from damaged parting lines. So how this works is basically it's designed for a standard caulking gun. And so, every rotational molding shop that I've ever been into, I will see damaged parting lines just from using like crowbars and things like that, trying to separate those two mold halves. And oftentimes, maybe it's a tool that it doesn't have a real high volume, or, maybe you just need to get through until the next run. And so this can be a great method of getting through an order and then sending out the mold to have the mold repaired. Or again, like I was saying, it may be a situation where it's not a high volume, and you may be reluctant, or the customer may be reluctant to get new tooling. So how this works, again, it comes in a standard caulking gun, and you're going to actually squirt a bead of this material on the flange of the mold. Now, it is a natural material, and people always say, is there any way you can color it? Well, if you put it to the very outside edge of the flange, that way, when you squeeze it down, it doesn't contaminate into the inside wall of the rotational molding tool. And then it just simply, it molds during the molding process as part of your flash, and then can just be trimmed off afterwards. So again, you're preventing the scrap that could have happened from blowholes, also resin loss. This can cause a fire hazard, if you will. And again, you don't want that material falling out of your mold. So parting line sealer is a great way to prevent that. And the next case study, a major playground equipment OEM, they were having issues with not only resin, but gases escaping from those areas. And again, it was leading to a ton of scrap. And so if we dive into this a little bit, and you look at, say, the cost of a parting line sealer tube, $25. And it would cover in those areas approximately 40 slides. Now, the resin cost for a slide was about $75. And so if you take the 40 slides times the $75 that it would cost to, or in just in material, that's about $3,000 just in material alone if you had to scrap those parts. Again, there's other things to look at. Say you have to ship out that tool to have it be fixed, the downtime of not having that tool, not to mention replacing scrap. So again, this can be a huge cost save and a huge win for rotational molding companies. In fact, this was one testimonial, and I apologize that the in-camera screen, it's actually Goff Plastics, said that we were having hassles with foam blowing bubbles at the parting line, resulting in about 15% scrap. No matter how many bolts, et cetera, we used, we could not stop the problem. And the customer was very reluctant to rebuild or build a new tool. And again, so parting line sealer was the answer in that particular situation. So again, just like Patch and Go, super easy to use. It keeps your molds up and running. That way, again, like I mentioned before, you don't have the downtime of having to ship that tool out. And then have you're not making product at that point. So, and this again is designed to decrease your losses and prevent, blowholes and issues with damaged parting lines, and bottom line, increasing your profit. So next up is rotational molding compound. Oftentimes when I'm on the phone with customers, they don't even know that we necessarily even have this material. And so I like to say that, with rotational molding compound, you kind of can get injection molded features out of a rotationally molded part. And what I mean by that, rotational molding, everything is hollow, where this material, you can actually create solid features. And there's some areas where people would use this. For example, say you were having issues around an insert. You could create a little donut of this material and pack it around those inserts. And that way everything is really reinforced and is now a solid feature. Another area might be, say you have a part that have hinges on it, and you want to make it more robust, and you don't want hollow hinges, but you actually want something solid. That would be another area where you could use this. The material is kind of like almost like clay. It's soft, it's pliable. You can pack it down into different areas. We do have it, available in natural and black. You see some color here. So again, you're able to create solid features where it knits together with your rotational molding resin. So this particular case study was a tier 1 supplier for motor vehicles, and they wanted to have solid mounting holes for their fuel tank. And again, this was a super hard to mold area because the material just, rotational molding resin sometimes doesn't want to flow into tight areas like this. And so rotational molding compound was a solution to that. Again, super easy to use, and you can make lots of solid features. Again, think hinges, think using it around inserts. That particular product was about 1,000 pounds per year. So again, it can be a huge solution. And then last up, I want to talk about color in systems. We also have this available in an on format where you can put it onto the surface of a rotationally molded part. And so this is a way to color your products. You can highlight areas with it. We've done work where maybe you're making a buoy and you want to have two different colors on a part, maybe a red and a green. There's lots of different innovative ways that you can use this material. Again, it gets sprayed into the mold, and then when the part comes out, it is decorated with that color. For example, in this particular one that we're looking at, it's a piece of rotationally molded furniture where they wanted to highlight some areas on the arms. Now, typically you're going to apply this with an HVLP gun, which is high volume, low pressure. You put the material into the canister on top. You'll want to make sure if you're using this material that you choose a spray tip that is coarse, okay? Because again, this is polymers, right? This is not spray paint. This is polymers, and that's why it melts into your plastic product. This was just that roto-molded furniture was actually highlighted in an issue of Roto World. So this particular case study, this is Pallets of Utah, making elk and deer type chandeliers. Super realistic look. I believe it's been like 25 years now. And it is significant revenue when you look at what this color can do for them to make things look realistic. Again, super easy to use where you just spray it into the mold, you highlight those areas, and then when the part comes out of the mold, it is permanently labeled with that color. So those were the items that I wanted to go over. At this point, I'm going to open it up for questions. And I also had talked in my most recent post that we're going to offer a promotional code. So any orders that come in yet in the month of April that have a promo code of webinar 10 on it, okay, anything that has webinar 10, that's a roto-molded support product that we've covered today that comes in this month, we will give you 10% off on that order. So really appreciate everybody attending today. And again, the question and answer section is in the LinkedIn live format. And so we won't be able to talk with audio questions, but certainly if you have some questions, feel free to type them in. One question that always comes up, again, I mentioned it earlier, but I really want to emphasize this because this question comes up a lot. If you're putting parting line sealer on that flange, you want to move it to the outside of the wall. It's going to take on the characteristic of that damaged parting line, and it's going to squeeze and squish down into that area. Okay, but you want to make sure you put it to the outside wall, because when you if you put it to the inside, that's going to contaminate into the part. So say, for example, you're making a blue part. Now, all of a sudden, you've got this natural material right on the parting line. And so if you put it to the outside wall, then it won't contaminate in. I briefly touched on it earlier, and that was we do have our spray color available in a post-molding situation. In that particular case, you would spray it onto the surface of your plastic, and then you would use clear coat on top of that, just so that it can withstand the curing process of using a shrink wrap torch with it. But again, this is a perfect way, even imagery, like for example, maybe you want to put up arrows on a part, and it's a low volume project and you don't necessarily want to order labels from us to do that, this would be a great way where you could throw down a stencil, spray some of this material on. Again, it's not spray paint. It is polymers, pigmented polymers, and we need to cure those with a shrink wrap gun. Okay, and you're going to be heating it up and over 275 degrees Fahrenheit, just like you do with the patch and go. Okay, so that is a great solution for, again, low volume. So I want to reiterate too, that again, we're offering a promo right now. Any orders that come in through the end of this month that say webinar 10 on one of those 4 items that we had discussed, will give you 10% off on that. So again, if there's no other questions, I appreciate everybody's time today. Again, I wanted to make this brief, but go over some of those support items. So again, thank you everybody for joining. And we are located again in Central Arizona. Welcome visitors. Contact information is there. And for international support, my colleague Nick Molden, his contact information is there as far as his email address is concerned. So around the world, people are using these products. So again, thank you for joining today, and I hope this was educational. Thank you.